I think this is a great question. What do coaches look for in a player? Welcome, everybody, to episode 6 of the Jimmy and Kyle Show. As usual, my co-host, the king of the spinning beavers and whirlybirds, Jimmy McAllister.
Good afternoon, Kyle. I hope everybody out there in TV land or whatever we're on is fine and everybody's staying safe and healthy.
Yeah. So this week's episode is the Q&A segment that we had families send questions in for Jimmy and I to answer. But before we get to that, we're going to do our Show Us What You Got segment. And up first is William Braley from B07 Samba. There it goes, a little rainbow into a flick. Very nice, young man.
Wow, pretty cool. Cool. Saw there was a lot of social distancing there. He had a lot of room to do his drill, and outstanding.
Yeah, beautiful day nonetheless. Okay, so first question, Jimmy. Jason Farrell would like to know, when are you going to get your COVID haircut?
Well, there's not too many people open, and I saw yours, so I decided against self-medicating and doing my own haircut.
I gotta say,
a lot of things to increase my skill. I've been working on my culinary ability. I've been working on my do-it-yourself-at-home projects. I took Screwdriver 101, how to use the screwdriver. That was a good deal. I worked on, I actually built and got all the ingredients and made a toasted cheese sandwich, which was pretty cool. Mayo on the outside, grilled it. It was very good. So I'm becoming a Renaissance man, Kyle.
Very good. Very good. Even at your age.
Even at my age, you can still learn new things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So it doesn't answer the question then. So you're not going to get a haircut.
Well, you know what? My wife and I are more worried about getting my dog Wilson's haircut. It's becoming ridiculous, and we're trying to find some culinary school that's open for the dog. But we've got an appointment scheduled after May 4th. So, but I'm more worried about him than I am me right now. So,
culinary school for the dog.
I'm going to grow my hair long, Jason. I'm going to grow it back to the mullet.
First real question comes from Nicole Dirks, parent in the club. What is the story with uniforms this year? Another parent had asked when the kit designs will be released, and whose buy year is it? What do they have to buy, etc.?
Well, this year it's obviously going to be cut down a little bit. I'm more than aware of what's going on out there and people with their jobs, so on and so forth. It's a boys buy year, and we've changed now to boys and then girls and totally boys. So the boys will need to buy a home and away uniform and maybe a sweat top. But trust me, we're paring down the uniform buy as much as we can. The girls would be, they can buy training gear if they need it, but if not, they can go the year without buying anything. So again, Julie, Irwin, Kevin Long, and I and Tessa have been going over the uniform buy. Soccer.com has been fantastic in terms of paring down the order. Adidas has worked with us, and we're going to try to get it in as cost effective as possible.
Perfect. Next question comes from Abby Lee, a player.
And let me say, Kyle, these questions we haven't rehearsed. So I'm hearing these for the first time because I would have had a better answer to Jason and my hairdo if I would have known about that. So I'm hearing these questions for the first time. So bear with me. And Kyle, maybe you can read them if it's a good answer or a bad answer or something. It'll be kind of like you know what I mean?
I couldn't find a bell, but maybe we can get one put in virtually.
Okay, a virtual bell. I love that. The best kind.
So the next question comes from Abby Lee. She's player on the Girls 07 ECNL. She wants to know, and I think this is a great question, what do coaches look for in a player?
Well, you know what? It's really funny. That's a great question because there's two different answers to it. I think a college coach might look for strength. They might look for speed. They might look for presence. A club coach might look for character. I think it's easier to look at a player when you know the player well, you know their strengths, you know their weakness, you know mental makeup,
Yeah.
their family situation at home. I mean, I look for first touch. I think that's important. The way I like my teams to play when I was coaching, first touch can get you out of a lot of problems. Can you make decisions quick? Are you thinking of what you're doing, or are you just physically reacting? Physical players will do well for so long, but once you get to a certain level, it's the thinking players and the first touch and the people that can think under pressure and play quick out of pressure that are going to be the best players.
Yeah. I think being two-footed is a huge advantage as well.
I mean, you try to look at speed, you look at strength, but all players bring something different to the game. You know, I think soccer is a game where everybody can play. I played a lot of years, and I was probably 150 at the height, weighed 150 at the height of my career. But it's being able to take information and react quickly to what's going on and read situations. And played with a lot of players that weren't the greatest athletes, but they were very, very bright, very smart. So they were always able to get away with what they had because they were very intelligent players. So I think intelligence for me is one of the biggest things.
Yeah. So you said that you played a lot of years. I want to ask you a question. What is the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you on the field, in a game, training, whatnot?
I remember a time with the U.S. national team in Guatemala where a few of our guys on the team came down with a little bit of an illness, and we got to the locker room, and the coach was trying to find 11 players that could play. And at the time, we were in our red, white, and blue, white shorts, red socks, red top, and you get that dysentery in Central America, and stretching for a ball wasn't something you wanted to do. So we were looking around, and it was a tough situation. Halftime was interesting. We were in a locker room in Guatemala City, and there was one toilet in the locker room, and none to say there was a line going out the door trying to get in there. So yeah, that was pretty bad. And that was probably the worst thing, besides some of the own goals I scored or some of the failures I had physically playing. But that was probably the worst thing I remember. Guatemala City, it'll get you every time.
I'm not sure that I can think of a story that would top that.
No, and I wasn't the only one. So, misery loves company. There was a few of us that were having stomach issues, so to speak. Back in the day when I went with the national team, we didn't have our own cook. We didn't have our own provisions. You ate what they had in the hotel. And whatever they had in the hotel or the water or whatever wasn't the best. And back then, it wasn't. You didn't travel with your own water supply and all this. It was a little bit different. So, yeah, some of the guys weren't feeling so well. So
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it wasn't a good deal.
All right. Next question. A little bit more of a serious question, and a good question, and being in the time that we're in right now. How much time do families have to accept an offer once it's made on the phone, between now and May 1st?
So we're going to send out something in Team Snap so the parents can see what we need. Honestly, when we pick the teams, we're going to need an answer on the phone. You need to make sure your phone number and the information that the club has is correct so we can get a hold of you. You have to understand that we have 2,500 kids that want to call the first night. Yeah. This isn't a thing where we can have kids waiting 4 or 5 days to figure out if they made a team. We all know how that goes. So we want to give everybody the offers on the first day. So it's mandatory that when we make the call and offer a spot, it's really not a situation where we're talking about the future or what position will my kid play, or will he be center forward, or will he be left back. It's accept the offer. After we make the offers, there's plenty of time for the coaches to get with the team, talk to the parents, talk with the players. If your kid wants to move up, there's always that potential when we get going that can happen. So we really need to make these offers and move on to the next kid. I know it's not the most personable. It's better than getting an email, but we need to move on so we can get these teams picked. And then as we go, the coach can get that more personal relationship with the parent and the player.
Yeah, the important thing to remember is that it's not about pressuring anybody into making a snap decision. It is about how it affects other kids that are waiting for those calls. We try to be courteous and timely.
Everybody's been in a line at PE or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm second captain, first pick. And you don't want to be waiting too late to get the call. Everybody wants to get a call.
Right.
Everybody wants to get a call the first night. Everybody wants to feel special. You don't want to be waiting 3 days in. And obviously there's mistakes made, and sometimes the phone numbers don't go through. So be patient with us. Honestly, we're going to try to get to every single kid the first night. When you think about that, that's 2,500 calls. So we don't have the time to, unfortunately, to speak to each kid individually about how much time, what position. I see you as a right wing or a left back. There's plenty of time for that as we go down the road. But technically or tactically, this is how this has to happen to get everybody the calls.
Right. So James Goldsmith wants to know if summer tournaments are canceled, which could very likely well happen. Is there any consideration from clubs about pushing those tournaments into the fall season or future dates?
You know, everything's on the table right now. I can't really see a lot of summer tournaments going on. I wish they would. I mean, all of us would like to be playing right now if we could, but that's not the reality of the situation. We will sit down and talk about when we start and how much time we have to fit State Cup in, the league in, this in, that in. We've pushed some of the tournaments that were supposed to be in June back to July, some of the tournaments that are supposed to be in July to August, but we really don't know. In the fall, generally the league starts the week after Labor Day, so there's not a lot of time in there to do tournaments. But if we can, you know, we're going to do as much as we can. But I do say, and I think people have to understand, I'm not so willing to put kids on a plane in July and go to San Diego and pay $250 a night in a hotel room when the economy's been beaten up a wee bit with this virus. And, you know, do we really want to put our kids on a plane to go to San Diego? I see college scouts coming here. You know, it's easier to transport a scout from California to Seattle than a whole team of 16-year-olds to San Diego or whatever.
For sure.
I think we're going to have to be real prudent on the dollars that we spend and just get this thing going and see once we get going where we can go from there. Yeah.
And that kind of bleeds into the next question, which is probably the most often asked question that we got this week, which was, once restrictions start to be lifted, what do we envision this looking like coming back? What is the plan? What have we been doing to prepare for the possibility of the restrictions being lifted?
I honestly believe Seattle United's a leader in the market. And one of the reasons I say that is that we have a lot of valuable volunteers in this club, and no more valuable than the medical advisory committee.
Right.
Our board of directors have worked very, very hard during this time to try to come up with policy and make it right for our customers. But the medical advisory committee, and especially John Dresner, who is the UW doctor and obviously the Seahawks doctor, has been an absolute superstar. Yeah. We've been in contact with him. What does it look like when we come back? One of the things is that I don't see the governor saying, okay, it's all open. You can play 20v20 and go out and have a 400 kid tryout. Yeah. I think it's going to be smaller group numbers. I think when you look at carpools need to be consistent. I think when you have training numbers, and I'm not saying, but if it's a groups of four, the same group of four. So if somebody gets sick, you can restrict it. I think we will have a schematic for the parents to look at what a field will look like, because it could be a coach encircled in cones in a mask and gloves, 10 feet or whatever, 6 feet or 2 yards away from all the kids, more circuit type training. I think that we are trying to think of the best way we can to come back. And it doesn't really matter what everybody else does. It matters what we do. And I think if I am a parent, for my kid to come back, I want to know the people they're going to have a plan. And I want to know that plan is vetted by somebody that knows a lot more about this than Jimmy McAllister, the old soccer guy. This is, we're trying to use our medical advisory committee as much as possible, because they obviously have a much better grip than we do.
Yeah. And we've been on conference calls with Dr. Dresner to start this planning process and what it's going to look like. So we're already involved in planning out and scheduling out what it might look like if it's a return to play with groups of 4, groups of 10, whatnot. We're looking at the different scenarios and planning for those already. So it's a process, but we're already on top of that.
Well, I've always said to be a great soccer coach in the youth level and to, do what you need to do with the parents. I think it helps to be a parent.
Yeah.
Because you know what it feels like to have a kid. You know what it feels like when your kid doesn't make a team they want to make. You know what it feels like when your kid makes a team that he or she wants to make. And the emotion you have, the emotional connection you have between your children are different than anybody in the world of
Sure.
any relationship you have. If I'm sending my kids to a school, or if I'm sending my kids to soccer training or a daycare or whatever, I want to try to find the best daycare I can, and I want to make sure that the people care about my child and that they're going to do the best thing they can.
Yeah.
So for us, when we go back, everybody's going to do what they're going to do, but Seattle United will come back in an organized, thought out process, so we can feel as safe as we can feel about our kids being out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question, changing subjects a little bit, is from Gray Lavasser from our Boys 04 program. He wants to know a few different things about the college process. And I contacted Rich Reese, who is the UW men's assistant coach and also our girls coaching director, to get the answers to these because he knows a lot better than Jimmy and I. Gray's first question is, when is the ideal time to start emailing college coaches? And Rich's answer was sophomore year to share your schedules and video. And then main time kind of being early junior year and carry on throughout the year, not just a one time, here's a dump of videos and stuff and never having another contact with them. But it's also important to remember that everybody's timing is a little bit different. His second question was, should it only be before tournaments or showcases? And Rich's advice was absolutely before any kind of event like this. You want to do it a week before so you get on the schedule. Don't wait till a day before to send them the stuff, your schedule, any contact stuff you want to send them. That way they can put together their own schedule when they go out there, because those things are put together before they ever show up. And then follow up a couple days afterwards to make sure that they got it and see how you did a couple days after the tournament so that they can give you some feedback. But don't just email, he says. If you have a phone number for them, text, learn about the school, read the school's website, have some intelligent questions for the coach that you can ask them as well. And then the last question he had was, what's the best way to approach that? Obviously, email, follow up with a text if you're a junior or older in class year. And most importantly, probably do it yourself. Don't have your parent or guardian do it. You do it. It's going to show a level of maturity that they want to see out of you. They want to have a connection with you. They want you to answer questions as well and show your personality a little bit. They want to get to know you as a player. So, Gray, those are your answers.
Hey, Kyle,
right from the horse's mouth.
Kyle, I have another answer for Gray.
Okay.
First and foremost, before you mail to anybody or you call anybody or you tell them you're in a tournament, do well in school and get good grades. Yeah. Because if you don't have good grades and you don't do the work in school, it doesn't matter what you do. The first thing that I've found, I don't care how good you are, Gray, or if you have a left foot and a right foot, you can head the ball and do scissor kicks and everything else. If you don't have good grades, it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, give the college scouts the benefit of the doubt by throwing a 3.8 at them. And I'm not so sure anymore what's happening with the SAT and the ACT, but nothing beats good grades. Because if you don't have a 3-point, you can eliminate pretty much, most of the Division I schools in the country. So
no matter how good a soccer player you are, if you don't have the grades.
Exactly. So do yourself a favor in the first bit. And remember, your college grades start in 9th grade. You can't start when you're a junior in high school. You need to start right from the get-go and get on the books and do the best you can do, and that'll help your chances a lot better, Greg.
Yeah, and everybody should remember the deadline is April 30th, and that deadline is not an artificial deadline. That deadline is set by the state. We're not trying to be muggy Mikes about it and be sly with anybody. That is the date so that we can formulate teams and crack on with what we're doing.
What's a muggy Mike? I don't even know what that is. That some Texas word?
It's a sly character. A sly character that's trying to sneak one past you. Yeah.
Muggy Mike. Okay,
Yeah.
I got it. Beautiful. Heck.
All right. Last question. Joanne Zaitis wanted to know, what are we doing with our free time? What are you doing there, Jimmy? I know you're talking about going to culinary school, but you also mentioned cutting your dog's hair in culinary school, so I'm not sure what that meant.
I've been getting up very early and making my wife breakfast in bed every day. I mean, that's something I like to do. Make sure she has her freshly squeezed orange juice.
Beautiful.
I usually start with a compote of fruit and so on and so forth. And then I clean the house a little. I clean the house and, just do domestic things that I've been remiss in doing for the last 43 years. Cleaning under the fridge, finding stuff from the kids that moved out of the house 18 years ago. I mean, just little things like that I've been doing. A lot of Zoom calls, working with committees around the state, the RCS, our board of directors that have been in contact with us in terms of how we're going to get through this and what we're doing and so on and so forth, talking to the coaches, regular staff meetings. I have a conference call with our soccer.com this week on another talk show kind of like this. So I've been busy. I miss the kids. This is usually a time when we're battling for honors around the state. So it's kind of, a little bit different, but I don't feel so bad for myself. I feel bad for the high school kids. I feel bad for the high school kids that missed their senior season of their soccer, like the boys' high
prom.
school. I feel bad for young ladies and young men that can't do prom. I think it's terrible that, graduation might be off the thing. So for me, it's okay. I know it's interrupted a lot of people's lives. I've pushed my bedtime back to 9 p.m. instead of 8 p.m. So I'm trying to stay up another hour. Just little tests like that to see if I can overcome these obstacles, What are you doing, Kyle, with your 15 kids you have?
Well, I'll tell you what, that keeps you pretty busy. My 1.5-year-old did decide to take his little tricycle off the top of the stairs down to the basement, which, as you can imagine, didn't end too well. My 3.5-year-old. I know. We can't. No trips to the ER right now. My 3.5-year-old decided to fall out of a tree that he was climbing, so that was fun. But I will say this, in this industry, as you know, we're not home very often. So this is at least the time I get to spend at home with my kids, my wife. So that is definitely a benefit to it. But a lot of phone calls, like you were saying, we're still very busy. There's not a ton of downtime because there's always things still going on, especially at this time of year, right? You're getting ready for tryouts. We'd be busy at home anyway, or in the office or wherever you are. So tons of phone calls, conference calls, Zoom meetings, all those sorts of things. So definitely staying busy, which is nice.
It's kind of funny because we have a job that's kind of like, somebody once said, if I've never worked a day in my life because I enjoy what I do. I get to coach kids. We get to go watch games. What we do is, I don't tell anybody, but I'd probably do it for free. You know what I mean? It's a pretty great thing to be able to work with the families in Seattle, meet a lot of people. I've met in the last 10 years at Seattle United some great people that I consider dear friends. And it's, I know some people say, well, it's not that bad staying at home. And, my family and all that, but we get to do something that's kind of unique, and that's shape kids, no matter what level or whatever else. And it kind of sad not being out there, because I'd go to the games whether I was getting paid for it or with Seattle United or not, because I enjoy it. I enjoy watching the game. So we're very lucky. The other thing is I think that we've never really been in a situation like this before. So it really tests character, and it's hard to maintain a positive attitude, but that's what you have to do. You have to know that things are going to get better. And when they do, we'll be prepared for it, and we'll give the kids the best shot. I know the kids must be dying to be out playing, some way to get rid of some of their energy and so on and so forth. So, as soon as it's safe and as soon as we get the proper instruction, and like I said before, I think I said it in the last Zoom we had, or last Jimmy and Kyle show, we have a medical advisory committee, which we're very fortunate to have. And we'd be just real smart to follow what they say, follow their instruction. And I don't think we can go too wrong. I really look forward to seeing everybody back out there on the fields, seeing the kids play, having the good laughs, the high elbows, whatever you call it anymore. But it's going to be different. And you know what? I think we're a very, very good club to lead the charge and how it's going to be, where to place your bags, no more big jugs of communal drink. What are we going to do with the training pennies? How we deal with kids at carpool. Do they stay in the same training group? How do you trace if somebody gets sick? How do you keep the coach? Is it gloves? Is it face mask? I've got a bunch of face masks from soccer.com to vet with our Dr. John Dresner, and what we can wear in training and what's safe to wear so it doesn't come into your eyes or whatever else. What kind of face mask should the coach be using? The gloves the coach are using. The whole thing's going to change. And I don't think it's going to change for the short term. I think it's going to change for the long term. So it's going to be those who think about it the most and really contemplate what the changes will be that I think will survive in this new world order.
Yeah. All right, Jimmy, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I'm thinking right now that I might not look that bad in the mask, to be honest with you. The older you get, I don't mind wearing a mask. It keeps me from doing Botox. You know what I mean?
It'll become the new accessory for men and women.
Yeah, I think we're going to get Seattle United logo masks. It's going to be
awesome.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I think that everything's going to be okay. Take care of your kids. Keep them active. Keep them at home and stay safe. And that's the best we can do right now.
Yeah. Well, thanks, everybody. See you next time.